But apparently that's what he did. He went under aliases. He traveled around the Caribbean, or mostly bounced in between Jamaica and Panama, and that's how we ended up with the name that we ended up with. My name's Marc Fitten. I'm a writer here in Atlanta, and I have a selection in a new book that's out called We Wear the Mask, 15 True Stories of Passing in America. And my story, or the family story, is based on my great-grandfather. Around 2009 or 2011, around Easter time, my sister called and she was frantic because her toddler, he was 2, was just admitted into the hospital, and they kept asking her if she was Asian, if she was Chinese, and she kept saying, no, absolutely not. He had something called Kawasaki disease, is what they came back and told her. And Kawasaki disease is an autoimmune disorder. Basically, the body starts to reject itself. It's treatable and it's curable, and of course he was treated, he was cured, everything is fine, but it was a teaching hospital, and throughout her stay they kept coming and they kept showing her, because it's pretty rare, and they kept asking her, well, are you Asian, are you Chinese? And she kept saying no. And around that time I have another cousin who was paying attention to stuff like this, and he said, well, you know, your father just took a DNA test, and you should have it checked. You should call him and see what it says. So I called him, and he gave me the login information, and I logged in, and everybody starts off in Africa, and then it starts leaving and traveling around the world, and this little arrow left and ended up in Asia, and I kept thinking it was going to double back and come back, but it just stayed. And it ended there. So then the question was, well, how in the world did it get from there to us here? My family's from Panama, and you know, we know that there was a lot of migration and there was a lot of movement, and so I started researching it. I looked into it, and I started. It became like this fixation I had, where I just constantly was looking online, looking through old records. I hired researchers to try to find out who this person was who had created this name Fitten, because what that told me, that DNA test, was that, wait, our name isn't really Fitten, that's not our real name. So what is the real name? After researching for a number of years, I discovered the story of this person, my great-grandfather. He died when my grandfather was about 7. He died in a boat delivering fruit to the United Fruit Company in Central America, and my grandfather was only 6 or 7 years old, so he didn't really know much, and no one had ever seen this guy, no one had ever known him, and I was able to find a picture, and through the researchers, all I could find out was that he had a history of changing his name and changing his identity and doing whatever he had to do to survive in whatever context he was in. So I did find a name, but it was not a real name either. So I found another alias that he went under. But apparently that's what he did. He went under aliases. He traveled around the Caribbean, or mostly bounced in between Jamaica and Panama, and that's how we ended up with the name that we ended up with. So he is the first Fitten, and I would love to figure out what the original surname is. That seems to be lost for now, but if I can find it, I'll just keep looking, and that's the story.